Hi, everyone. I am so excited to talk to my friend Nicole, who is, it's even inappropriate to call her a friend. You're like a mentor and you're so amazing. But let me go through a little bit of your background. Nicole, besides being just an incredible part of our MPTF family and stepping up so much for us even recently, but you're a former ICM agent, FX exec, anonymous content manager. You are the head of Paramount TV. Welcome, Nicole Clemens, to our show.
Thank you. It's so good to be here.
And I do have to point out that both of us, this is the one pink shirt I own. Nicole found her other, the one piece.
In a sea of black. It's like a good and plenty.
You are yes, in a sea of black. It's all I do is wear black. And I've already had people, oh, wow, you're in color today. And we're doing this because of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So thank you for doing that. Not that you have to wear a color to support, but it's fun to do it. So Nicole, tell me, I want to go back into your journey. Did you always know that you were destined to be in Hollywood at some point of your career or your entire career?
I was a super bossy kid, and my parents started saying, you should be a director. You'd be a great director. So it got into my head that way, but I had absolutely no connection to Hollywood. No.
I was going to say, so your parents didn't have...
They were not in the business. And I grew up like 6 inches from a television with like a bucket of, ice cream, like what as a latchkey kid, and would come home and watch TV. And I marked my growth by like, I'm old enough now to stay up to see Fantasy Island. I'm old enough now to stay up and see Soap. I'm old enough now to say All That Glitters, Mary Hartman. So
I love it.
Yeah. I've always loved TV and film. And so, I did a program in high school where we were able to produce for local access station. And it kind of got the bug in me. So I knew nothing about it, but just headed towards Hollywood.
Got it. Well, that's great that your high school had a program like that, so you could, dip your toes in a little bit. Where was this high school? Where'd you go?
It was the Long Beach Museum of Art Video Annex. So I was a senior, and it was all the way down to junior high. I was the oldest kid involved, and we created a news magazine, like an Entertainment Weekly kind of, or an Entertainment Tonight magazine show for cable access. And we wrote and directed and produced and posted, and it was back with film where you're splicing. And it was cool.
I'm smiling when you said that because I got married at the Long Beach Museum of Art.
Oh, wow. A small world.
On that outdoor courtyard there. That's where we did the whole thing. It's gorgeous. So you're a Long Beach, you're a Southern California native.
I did live in I actually graduated high school from Long Beach, but I grew up mostly in Coto de Caza and went to El Toro High School. I bounced around. I was an exchange student for a year. And so, but I did live in Belmont Shores. I love it there.
Oh, Belmont Shores is incredible. And I really love playing golf at Coto. So good. That's so great. So, okay. So you go to college and first job in the industry, like what was your focus then? Did you know, or you were just headed towards something?
I'm a college dropout. I'm a proud college dropout because I was so driven to get there. I went up to San Francisco State because I recognized the name Aggie Coppola. I mean, I knew nothing about the business. I was like, Coppola, I know that must be good.
Yeah.
So I went up there, and I was always told the business is impacted. So I came down, and I had someone who knew someone who was in the business. There was a writer by the name of Dennis Klein, and we had lunch at Babaluo, Montana. And the one takeaway that I had was, he said, look, clearly you're not loving your college. You should just come down here, whether you're temping or cocktailing or, finish up at another school, you have to be here. So I gave notice that night, moved down.
That night?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody in LA, found a roommate, and I started temping. And that's how it happened. And then I started working, and then I just never finished, which is kind of nuts because I speak at so many universities, and I was that like AP honors student in high school, like so driven. And so the idea that I didn't finish is kind of bonkers, but it worked out.
No, but I think that's a great story. And I love that you own it and you're a proud college dropout. I mean, a lot of kids today are like, I just maybe want to start working. If you know and you have the opportunity, you're the perfect example that it obviously worked out for you. I'd have you speak at a university.
Honorary degree so that I don't have to tell my kids. Because I have a freshman in high school, and he's like, so where'd you go to college? And we're just like sidestepping.
Do the little dance.
exactly.
I would love to know some stats though, at any college you've spoken at, if you've encouraged anyone to drop out. That would
I
be fun
hope not. I always preface it with like, you should stay. The one thing I regret is that I was always trying to get there. I was always trying to rush ahead, and I was always
Yeah,
years ahead of myself. I
yeah,
wish I had taken the time. I wish I'd gone to grad school. I wish I would have relaxed and enjoyed myself, because I've
yeah,
been working for 30 plus years like a dog. And you're like, oh, great. And now in my 50s, I'm like, wait, I need a reverse time. I need to slow
right.
down. It just,
But you seem pretty present now. You're pretty enjoying the moment of
yes,
everything now.
yeah.
So tell us about how you became an agent. You've had a lot of roles to
I
play.
started my first job, my assistant jobs and PA jobs, but my first
Mhm,
executive job was at Spelling Television, and I was
mhm.
assistant. There was a temp who convinced the real assistant to quit their job so I could take their job, and then I was promoted there. And Jen Salke, who runs Amazon, and I were assistants there at the same time. So I was an
Oh
assistant.
wow.
I was an executive there, and then I left there to run a company for Rod Holcomb, who was the pilot director of ER and many other series. He had the best sort of pilot to television series record. And I was there for a while. And I'd met a woman by the name of Carrie Stein who was at Cosgrove Mirror, which is a reality TV company. She'd gone to ICM and she started wooing me to come in as an agent. And
Mhm.
about 6 months, and I was like, the last thing I want to be in is an agent. They're like used car salesmen. I feel like they're selling something they don't believe in. Like, I don't want to do that. And my dad was in
Right.
sales, having not been in this business. And so he was always pushing me to sales. And so I was totally avoiding it. And when she just made me an offer that I couldn't refuse on our Godfather theme. And I went there as an agent. And like 4 years in, I was involved in the trainee program, and I saw that there was a 4-year requirement. And I was like, oh my God, they're going to fire me. It's because, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I walked into Nancy Josephson's office and I was like, I have to tell you, I don't have a college degree. And she's like, you're fine. Tony Howard probably didn't even graduate from, probably didn't go to college. There were so many people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got grandfathered in, and I went there without, having been on a desk. So I had the benefit of not being scarred by being an agent's assistant,
Mm-hmm.
but I
Mm-hmm.
also literally had no idea. I like trial by fire,
I
just
was just gonna say that exact phrase. Did you like it?
it
Loved it.
my career is defined by all the things I said I'd never do are the things
Mm-hmm.
I end up doing and end up loving, and all the way. It's like without a doubt. And I was an agent for 16 years. I started in life rights. So I was like a producer where I was, flying here and getting the Nazi debutante's life rights and packaging her with an actress and selling that. I sold the one
Wow.
page Vibe magazine article that became the Fast and the Furious franchise. Then I moved into books and sold books to film and TV. And
Mm-hmm.
then, if you know your Hollywood history, when the big William Morris exit happened with Jim
Yeah.
Wyatt, there was a big gap. And Nancy and Paul Haas asked me to come be a TV packager, and Jeff Berg asked me to come be a feature lit agent. And so I went to the cool kids table. And of course, ultimately got all the way back to TV in the end, where I probably should have stayed, but I loved it. And I did that, and I ran that division for a long time, and I thought I would be an agent for the rest of my career. And
So
uh,
what happened? What was the
what
transition?
happened was, and here's the irony, I felt like all features were huge IP, right?
Mm-hmm.
The joke
Mm-hmm.
is there's an article in the New York Times that Mike Medavoy did in the 70s where he talks about the death of cinema and it's all IP, and
Yeah.
literally could have been like today.
Yeah.
Or back then, is like I was calling clients and saying, hey, they're remaking Mr. Ed at Fox 2000. Please don't shoot the messenger. I closed a deal for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles at Paramount. They were making Lego at Warner Brothers. And I was like, what is that? And of course, that ended up being one of my favorite movies of the year.
Right.
So I just was like, you know what? I got into film because I wanted to do adult drama, the films from the 70s. That was
Mm-hmm.
what I loved. And I was watching it in cable television that was having it was the golden age of television, right? It was The
Yeah.
Shield, Breaking Bad, it was all those shows. And so I just wanted to do that. So I did something that you don't normally do. Because you can't really look for a job when you're a top agent. And I quit my job without a job and just went, I'm pivoting. And so I had a midlife crisis and totally changed it up. And it makes it look like it was all planned, but I quit my job without a job. And then I went to see John Landgraf, who I had produced my first pilot with Rod Holcomb. So we knew each other forever. David
Mm-hmm.
Evans was his boss at NBC. He was the vice president at NBC. I mean, this is always such a marathon. I don't
This
have to
full
tell,
circle is unbelievable.
this gang who are watching,
Yeah.
they know it's a marathon, and it's all the people that you know. You have no perspective when you're in your 20s, but you look back and you go, oh, it's, you know. So I ended up going to see John and say, like, listen, I have these opportunities. What should I do? And he was like, I think you should come here and run development. So I ran development at FX for 5 years. And that was like, you know, Atlanta, Better Things, Snowfall, a bunch of comedies and dramas, which was phenomenal. And a great sort of crash course in that kind of television that I was just loving. And then I decided it was time for me actually to go produce. I just wanted to own it. I wanted to be in the dirt and so that's why I went to Anonymous, was to produce. And I thought, oh, I'll be a manager too. That will supplement my producing. And I got there, and 3 months later, I was like, I can't have clients anymore. It was sort of like forgetting pregnancy, like So I really was focused on producing, and then the opportunity, just 18 months in, the opportunity popped up at Paramount. There was a position to run the studio, and I was approached, and I was like, I don't want to run a studio. Why would I run a studio? You know, it was one of those things like, studios are a dying business. You want to go direct to Netflix. You want to go.
Right.
And
your savvy was like, no, this isn't,
No, but I had a relationship with it because we had a co-production deal with Anonymous and Paramount. So I knew them all. And I went to sit with Jim and fell in love with Jim and the idea of doing that. And I thought, you know what, this is something I've never done. Let me try it. Turned out, favorite job ever. Buying, selling, making television. It scratched all the itches.
Yeah.
Being able to like buy stuff, really be in the dirt, make it, and then have the adrenaline rush that I got as an agent of selling it. And so that was that, and that was the best. And so
I love it. So you've combined all your passions. I have to ask you though, because you've obviously taken a bunch of leaps, and it probably goes back to being that bossy kid. You obviously have a ton of confidence. Where does that come from? Where do you attribute that? And were you ever scared when you quit a job and had no job, or did you just?
I remember saying to my colleague Kevin Crotty, because I'd said, like, you know, maybe, he was like, are you done? Because we were at ICM and we were brand new partners. We had like 2 weeks into a brand new partnership. And I was like, I think I'm done. And I was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I want to be in TV. And I was in my 40s. And he said, well, do you want to run a studio? Do you want to run a network? And I was like, what can I do? Am I too old? Like, and he was like, no. And it was like little angels like that who, you know, who were like, no, of course you can, you know, and I, you know what, I just have like, I really trust my gut. I have a very low tolerance for pain and discomfort. And so I just, you know, I feel like I was like feeling the itch of where the movie business was going, my frustration with it, what I was loving. And I also, again, it was that crossroads where I'd been trying to get there. So now I was there, and now I was waiting for a liquidity event as a partner. And I thought, well, that's another 10 or 15 years, or last week.
Right.
Which was 10 or which was to be another 10 years. And I just thought, oh my God, when you're 20, you think of all the time in the world. And I thought, I don't really think I want my entire life to just have been being an agent. I want to do something different. And I said to a couple of people who were executives, because I'd spent my whole career pulling people into representation, because you have business, so you have security, right? It doesn't really matter if you're a woman, if you're old, if you're not popular, if you have a business, they have to deal with you. And so I felt like executives were semi-disposable in this business, right? And so I said to a friend, like, what happens if I fail as an executive? And they were like, you just get another job. So it was just these little...
really good advice along the way.
I mean, look, I think I spent my whole life feeling like I was a fraud and they were going to figure it out and catch up to me. I feel like that's the gift. And the gift of being late 40s, early 50s is you kind of, give 2 Fs. And it's the first time where I'm like, no, I'm actually the right person for this job. Like all of the accumulation of all the experience, and you're like, and you know enough to know that nobody knows what they're doing. That nobody
absolutely knows. Everyone feels like a fraud. I mean, to hear you say that, it's like, well, then I'm okay. I'm in good company if I ever feel like that, because you hear that from truly the best.
Yeah, and you just
I faked it until I made it. Yeah.
You just also realize, like, I was so afraid of failure. And the truth is, life is a process of experimentation. There is no
Yes.
such thing as failure. All
Right.
the relationships that I had that led to me to my husband made me the person that I am to be in the relationship that I am. They weren't
Right.
failures. At the time, I was like, oh my God, I had a 6-week marriage. Oh my God, I broke up an engagement.
Right. Right.
And then, but it all adds up. And so when you realize, when I've realized, like, go try it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Right? What is the worst thing that can happen? And, why is it okay? Why isn't it okay for me to try and fail? But I watch all these other people fail upward, right? Like, why is that okay for them? Why don't we just go try it? And it's so far, knock wood.
Well, it's incredibly inspirational because, and it's just such a good lesson to listen to your gut. There really is something incredibly valuable about that, and you should trust it, and you do. So it's a day in the life like. Now here you are running all of Paramount TV. All
Well,
these changes are happening.
it's a lot of changes. It's
Yeah.
a reminder to stay where my feet are, right? Because
Mhm.
it's I feel a little sometimes like Lucy in the Chocolate Factory, because there's the studio. So it's Paramount Television Studios, and we
Right.
manufacture shows for, we have shows on 13 different platforms. Obviously now a huge focus is to make shows for Paramount Plus.
Mhm.
Obviously our sister companies, Showtime and BET and all of that. But
Yeah.
and so I took over with Nevins running the Paramount Originals scripted series lane for the platform as well. So it's sort of two jobs, and which means, CBS Studios is supplying us, Paramount Television Studios is supplying us, third parties are supplying us. So it's dealing with all those, cultivating the slate, building out the programming. And then I am really incredibly lucky that I have a stellar team at the studio
Mhm.
who keep all those wheels turning. So I feel like Jim was incredibly, on our first meeting, we had one meeting when he hired me, and he gave me.
Yeah, I want to talk about Jim G. Jim Giannopoulos, our chairman of the board of directors, who is the absolute best, and I know very close. You have a very special relationship. Yeah, tell me about Jim.
He gave me, he basically said in our first meeting, and I'm just like wide-eyed, like, what is this? And he's like, it's really simple. It's, your people come to you with a problem, and there's 3 bad decisions, and you help them pick the least bad decision. They come to you wanting to do something, and you validate it, taking a little risk, a little of the, a risk on yourself and off of them.
Right.
And you
Right.
keep your eye out on the horizon, looking to see, like what's coming, right? So it's been a process of actually growing into that advice that he gave. That was, it was like trying to put an ocean in a thimble. And
Mhm.
so now I look back, 3 years into it, and having this new position and going like, okay, now I see what he means. That's where you have to be. But
Yeah.
I'm in there like, sewing up holes and bailing water, and,
And he's like high level view. And Jim is always so cool. It's from what I've seen, cool, calm, and collected. Like such a confident, calm energy.
yeah, yeah.
And I could,
He was
you're spinning, and he's like, no, you
He's
got
that,
it.
like, what I loved is I could walk in with a problem, and he wasn't in the day to day, but he would like synthesize it in 1 second, be on your side. And it was kind of like having like this energy that just believed in you unconditionally and supported you, and was like, and not that he wouldn't challenge an idea or
Mhm.
create sounding board, but he kind of just knowing that he was like, you got it. And he was unflappable. It helped me to become, unflappable. And you just start to realize, like, when so much stuff is happening, I kind of zen out, right?
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
like going through the pandemic, shutting down all of our shows, it's just,
Yeah.
you just kind of go like, I can do what I can do. I can control what I can control. I can do the
Mhm.
best job I can do in any given moment. And then I have to let go of the rest, and it'll work itself out.
Right. Right. Exactly. I mean, talk to me a little bit about the pandemic. I mean, I'm hoping, I look at my calendar like it's going to end in a minute. It
I think
seems like we're
we learned
tailing
that lesson
off.
in June. We all started like putting our party hats on, and then it was like, oh, not really over.
Yeah, keep them close, but I know at least we're getting back to it, thankfully, in-person things. But how difficult was that? Of course, you're being present and taking it moment by moment, but
It was challenging because it was like, how do we solve this? How do we solve this? What do we do? And it was such an unknown. And we
yeah,
had no, the industry had absolutely no frame of reference for this. right? I salute the labor teams, our labor team, the labor teams, the HR teams all across, and the return to work, all the coalitions that got together to figure
Yeah.
all this out was pretty amazing, pretty phenomenal,
Yeah.
and I just, I'm in awe of the fact that because I remember seeing those protocols and thinking like, how is any human going to function with all of this? And yet in a weird way, it's, in a strange way, there was like a silver lining of like, somehow you became more focused and more efficient, having to be completely cognizant of all your actions all throughout the day and how they
Yes.
affect somebody else and being in your zones. And so while I'm happy for the days where we don't have to have that, I think that was an interesting little byproduct.
I was going to say, yeah, there are things that we have all taken from the pandemic and learned how to be very efficient. And, but the pandemic also was a good example for a lot of people, just taking it to MPTF, being a safety net for the industry for 100 years.
Yes.
It's these moments that you don't think about. Obviously, this was on a grand scale and it affected everyone. But how did you first learn about MPTF? I'm always curious to know how.
I totally remember. And I actually,
okay.
like when I was talking about MTPF I was talking about it to my staff, I saw the same kind of look in their eyes that I had, which was Jeffrey Katzenberg came in, who I also love, came into ICM. Jeff Berg brought him in. Mm-hmm. And in classic Jeff Berg way, like no explanation. We were all called into a room and like, there was Jeffrey Katzenberg. And we were like, what is going, with no context, right?
Yeah.
And Jeffrey throws up this big, like he throws up a film clip of, sort of a what's MPTF, which was still sort of like, wait, what? And then he talked about it and it was like, oh, wait, this incredibly practical, tangible thing that existed. And, so I think he probably had like 100% sign up on payroll that day, I would assume. I mean, he was so evangelical about it and like, it was great. And then we went out as, for I can't remember if it was a retreat or what it was, but a community day. We all went out to the campus and spent time with the residents, which and I did that a few times, and I just absolutely loved that. And then learning about all the other services and all because like everybody, I was like, oh, that's what it is. And then
it's just the campus, it's the home, sure.
And you start to see a safety net, and look at that age. I'm seeing one thing, but now that I've been, in the industry for 30 years and as a studio, when you think about all the people that make our shows, all the people that are involved, in bringing a show to life, and those people are paycheck to paycheck, right? And what happened in the pandemic, and what so many things that can befall somebody, and the idea that we are taking care of each other, and that there's some face-to-face quality about it. And the idea that, and I've seen this happen many times over the years, referring people to MPTF or, knowing, like saying, listen, we just need to get you in touch with this person, and then seeing them be helped is just, I don't know, I probably won't ever need that as an individual, but knowing that it's there. And like, look, Jill Sherry Robinson is a really good friend of mine, and her husband, she was in England and was very, very ill. And you guys helped bring him over. He was a resident. She tells me the stories of coming and visiting him and being there. And he was there till the end. And like, that just like, she's sort of my mentor for love. I mean, she would crawl in bed with him, everybody like that. You know what I mean? It was just like, I'm like, I just want to know. And I think it means more to me the older I get, that there is a safety net for us and for the people that I care about, and I love it. It's really important to me.
Well, you have been such an incredible advocate. I mean, the whole Paramount VIA community, Viacom, CBS family, I mean, that VIA community day and Jim's leadership, especially, I mean, just talk about being a true champion for the safety net, and we are a safety net. We try to be more proactive, so it's not just when you fall, but you're right, to have that confidence to know. And it's not about what position you are from bottom to the top. You never know when you might need help. And for me, just someone coming from a different industry, to see the way people take care of each other, such an honor and a privilege to be a part of MPTF and to see people like you who step up. And recently, I just want to mention that, we're doing all kind of challenges. And you took your leadership, you and Channing Dungey, and I know, Toxic Carlina, to just encourage your staff to know about us. And not everyone has to give $1 million or can, not even close ever, but to participate and to learn about us. Tell me what that was like for you and why you were just so enthusiastic to be a great champion for us.
Well, it was honestly when we went to an event recently, and I think it was Bob, maybe it was Channing or Bob, but I think it was Bob who was talking about that essentially the funding had come largely from payroll, right?
Yeah.
Over years.
Hmm.
And the number to which it had dropped to from where it was horrible.
Hmm. Yeah.
It was absolutely terrifying. And I just felt like, I remembered it brought back viscerally when Jeffrey had come to speak to us. And then it became a part of my life. I was a payroll, I deducted from payroll at ICM and at Paramount. And it was just, you don't think about it, but it's sort of like, it's your personal responsibility, right? Like it's
Right.
just a thing that you do. And so the idea, you know, I think I came away from that intending to do it, but when you were like, let's do this challenge and we've got 3 days, and it was like, oh my God.
Yeah, let's do it
I love
quickly.
an adrenaline rush. So,
Yeah. Well, you stepped up quickly. I mean, your
yeah.
team, talk about the participation. You nailed it. It was incredible.
But
And
you
I know you
got
did
me
this.
on competition. We had to beat Warner Brothers on participation. So,
Yes.
we had to
And
do
you
it.
did, Warner
We did.
Brothers, but you guys did all a great job, but you did. I mean, when there's competition, at some point, everyone's winners, but you're going to have to talk about someone came out ahead.
Exactly.
So good job. You guys got the trophy.
I was also really pleased to learn how, because there were a number of people. I did my spiel and I did my video, but then I said, who all here knows about is on payroll, and a really large percentage were, and that made me so happy. That made me,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't know to check. I was like, I thought you didn't know what the amount was, but
No, your network, the company, the whole family under the umbrella is definitely a company we talk about all the time, where Payroll Pledge is still alive and well and still supporting us tremendously. So before we move on, because I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on, I know we have a little bit more time with you, but MPTF, what would you just spoke about it so brilliantly, and of course why it means so much to you. But for people that are more on line with you and your role and your job in the industry, what you just said, I think resonates deeply. And there's many of you, thankfully, out there that say, I'm pretty sure I'm never going to need these services, but I still believe in it. So when someone's like, well, I'm fine, there's other ways to help, and you guys are good. What do you tell that person? No, you really do need to get involved because A, you might need it, but why should it mean so much to everybody?
I think our business is, the reward is proportional to risk, and our business has a huge, attraction to all of the upside, but there is a lot of risk. There's the mass majority of our business is paycheck to paycheck, self-employed, and I think that the thing that really resonated for me at this point in my life and about this organization was that those are the shoulders of the people that I'm standing on. And I'm in the position that I am because of the work that they've done and the sacrifices they've made, and the commitment, and that we are all a family. And that's the thing about entertainment. It's a very familial, from each set to the family, of the tradesmen, of the crew, it's just, and I feel like that
you're together more than you're with your family.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other story.
Right. Yeah.
So I just think that it just bears responsibility to take care of our own. And I think that just comes with, the privilege that we have to be in the positions that we are.
Yeah.
Why not? I love that it's people that we know, the people that have supported us, the people that are on our crews, the people that are in our companies, that I'm the person, if I hear about something, I'm like, I want to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I have a place to go and say,
right.
Here's a resource for anything you need, whether it's mental health, or whether it's care for your parent or your husband, or whether it's, whatever it is, whether it's a short gap. It's those things make a difference. And God knows, since pandemic, it's been, never needed more than now. And
yeah, I mean, and we tell people a lot of the time, which is so great that being such a good advocate, it's like, just call us. Even if it's a resource or a service you think maybe we don't have.
Yeah.
That's what one of the things that it sounds almost silly because, well, if you refer me elsewhere, but you get a person who cares. And the thing that was really impressive to me is our social workers who handle so many calls. And over the pandemic, I think their workload increased, exponentially. But they don't just answer the call and let you go.
Yeah.
It's not just a one-time thing. They really do care. I don't know how they do it, but they really do care.
Okay.
On a fun side, do you have any fun MPTF stories? Like when you came here, what were you doing volunteering?
I just love talking to the residents, and I loved getting the gossip.
Oh, there's a lot. Oh my gosh. They have, right?
I was like, this is going to be a great stage of life. I want to be here. I actually have always said, like, I want to be on the campus someday. I know I've been like, well, I don't know if I'll ever need it, but my secret thing is like, I'd actually like to be on the campus someday. It looks like they're having the best time.
Yes.
And,
I mean, you feel the energy. The energy on this campus is unbelievable.
And by the way, at that point, when I was going to campus, I hadn't even lived through the hell I went through with my father, who had dementia and like one hideous, nursing facility.
Yeah.
Long-term care. I mean, after another, absolute worst. And so I didn't even know how to value, like, or recognize the value in the kind of care that happens at your campus.
Right.
Because, and there's always great individuals at every place. And these places were supposed to be the best places, but there were just, it was kind of terrifying. So there's just, for me, there's just always been like knowing that that's there and just like how vibrant everybody was and just I love hearing the stories about Hollywood and people's points of view about where they came from in that trajectory. And I don't know.
No, there are, I mean, the best characters in the world are living right here.
All the stories. You gave me the books in the gift bag. I read the books.
Yes.
It's phenomenal.
Isn't it incredible?
So good. So
and Harry, who was at our event, who, wrote that book of poetry, and I, bought his book on Amazon and gave it to a supporter of ours, and the Gray Quill Society. Yeah, I've got their book right there, all the stories. It's phenomenal. It's
so inspiring. It was so like, you get these ideas of what you think life is going to be like, and it's just so rich and full and just so much creation. And I don't know, I love that.
I hope other people take note, because too many people have had your experience with your dad, where you don't really know until you know that, unfortunately, it's a tragedy. There are some elder care facilities that it's awful. And it's awful how we take care of sometimes our elderly population, which is ironic because we forget it's not like we're talking about a disease that you might never get. We all, if we're lucky, we all age.
Yeah.
There's no difference here.
Yeah.
A 2-year-old and a 111-year-old on our campus. I hope other communities do that, because that like-minded coming together based on what you love and your passion. By the way, I know you've never done this. Don't ever ask any of our residents, what did they do? They always correct me. I am still working. I am never going to stop. What do you mean, what did I do? I love that.
That's so great. I also love the idea that you're with people, like, because when I think about my dad, and I would see him sitting in I'd come to visit and he'd be in these circles with people he had nothing in common with.
Right.
Yeah, that here's a community where whether you were a grip or you were a writer or you were an actor, there's something to talk about. I mean, I learned about your resident who was 111 years old. I'm like, 111 and still active, like
thriving.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And it opens my mind to possibilities for myself and for other people that it's an incredible example of what's
nice peace of mind for that chapter of life.
Yes.
All right. So let's go back to work a little bit. So tell me what's going on with the relationship. So Paramount and Paramount Plus, and there's so many, so much content out there. I mean, what's the relationship like, and what are you hoping to kind of achieve in the next year with this is a newer role for you, right? Being more involved with Paramount Plus.
Really build out Paramount Plus. And if you think about, I can only speak for myself, but I was like, okay, well, how many services am I going to sign up for? Right. And I feel like everyone sort of said, well, everyone's going to have this many, but it's turned out that people are having a lot more. But what
Mhm.
drove me to sign up for some of the services, or like to sign up for Hulu, was The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not signing up for Hulu. I actually have like a technophobe. So even signing up for it was like,
Yeah.
someone else is going to have to sign me up for this. But I
Yeah.
wanted to see Handmaid's Tale because everybody was talking about it. And so, I'm not looking to replicate Handmaid's Tale, but I am looking to find those shows that are the water cooler event, needle moving shows that make people say, I've got to have Paramount Plus. And, we have CBS All Access became Paramount Plus. So there's an audience that's there, and they came for Star Trek, which is an unbelievable franchise, which we're continuing to expand. And so
Right.
it's building that out. And there are, The Offer, which is the making of The Godfather, which is
Oh.
not a docudrama. It is Al Ruddy, who is 92 years old.
Mm-hmm.
See me. He was the sole producer of The Godfather, and he was just telling me his stories. And I was
Wow.
like, wait, you were at the Rand Corporation, computer programming.
Yeah.
Then you knew nothing about Hollywood. You were this maverick, and you sold Hogan's Heroes, a comedy about Nazis about 5 minutes after World War II, if you think about it in the scheme of it.
Right. Right.
And you walk away from that because you really want to be in the movies. And then Robert Evans gives you a 1-year deal, which is basically to just screw with the other producers on the lot.
Right.
He makes Little House in Big Falsey with Robert Redford. Frankly, when he found the script, and he went to Bob Evans and said, I've got this great script. And he goes, yeah, get me Robert Redford, as if like he would ever. And he flew down to Mexico where they were shooting Butch and Sundance and brought him the script. And Robert Redford was like, didn't Bob tell you that the studio's suing me? And Al was like, oh, well, what if I could fix that lawsuit? And he did. And
Wow.
did the movie. The movie did not do well, but he was a low budget guy. Right? That's another example of failure turning into something great. So he was the low budget guy. So when The Godfather started to happen, they went to him and said, you can do this for $4 million. And so he survived the mob, Sinatra, all these people not wanting to make the movie, survives that movie, wins the Oscar, right? And so now there's going to be a sequel. It's a total no-brainer. It's guaranteed. And he leveraged, I'm giving, don't tune out if you don't want to know the end of the story.
Yeah.
He basically leverages his rights to The Godfather because he writes the story for The Longest Yard and says, I want to greenlight this. And they're like, no, we'll do it later. And he's like, I will give you back the rights to The Godfather if you greenlight this now, which became a huge success for him too. I mean, he just was so outside the box. So he just produced Cry Macho, that Clint Eastwood also in his 90s just directed. I mean, I love it. And he's super vibrant and really like giving great notes on this. And so it's Miles Teller playing Ruddy, Matthew Good playing Evans, Juno Temple from Ted Lasso.
Love her.
She's awesome, playing Betty McCart. Dexter Fletcher, who directed Rocket Man, is directing. So it's a big limited series.
Wow.
When
is that going to be out?
That'll be out in probably the second quarter of next year. We haven't announced a date yet, but that is an example of like a show I think that will, people who at 18, really 10 to like 80, 90 know The Godfather, and they're going to want to, I think, see that. So I think that'll be a great calling card for us. But shows like,
it's so true that it is. I was the same as you. I'm like, I'm not going to have 25 different subscriptions. I never even thought I'd have only a smart TV and like get rid of cable. Right. That it seemed like a foreign thing to me, but it's content driven. So, I mean, everyone I'm sure probably knows this, but what are the top shows right now? So if someone's watching, they're like, well, I don't have Paramount Plus. What are the top shows that you think?
Definitely, if you're a science fiction person, the Star Trek franchise is phenomenal. I mean, they are big, they're huge, they're like movies, and there's Picard, and we have Strange New Worlds coming, and it's phenomenal. And then of course, Discovery is well into its run. We've got Evil, which is migrated over from CBS, from the Kings, who do The Good Fights. The Good Fight and Evil are big pillars on. There's Mark Cherry, who did Desperate Housewives, has the anthological series Why Women Kill. Alison Tolman from Fargo was in the last one. Really, it's like Mark Cherry on steroids, right? Like what he does best. We're going to do Grease, which we've announced, which we were like, how do you do Grease today? Why do you do Grease today? And interestingly, the demographics of Venice High, which is a comp for Rydell High at the time, were incredibly diverse. So we have a prequel to Grease, and it's the rise of the Pink Ladies.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that'll be a series.
Yeah, it's a series. There really were Pink Ladies. So you have Jane Facinato, who's Frenchie's older sister, and Frenchie and Rizzo are in 8th grade, and they're tangential. And Jane is Puerto Rican and Italian, passing for Italian.
Right.
And it's she and the women who did the first generation of Pink Ladies coming up through. So you've got the musical numbers, you've got the fantasy, you've got all of what you expect tonally from Grease, but it's actually saying something about today, and it's really good, really exciting.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic.
And I think that'll play to a really wide-ranging audience. And you know, we've got 1883, which is the Yellowstone prequel, and Mayor with Jeremy Renner coming to the platform.
I had a nice conversation with Jim about Yellowstone. My entire family is obsessed with that.
Oh,
show.
good.
Yes,
Good.
yes. And I just started it. I'm, probably the last one, and it's phenomenal. I get it. So speaking of like Grease and others like Flashdance, I mean, you guys are taking a lot of like the classic kind of Paramount films and turning them into series, right?
We are, and it's not just that. I think there's some misnomer because we came out of the box with those announcements, and it's sort of like Paramount Plus is synonymous with the movies.
Right.
A lot of those are like, we're making Grease. I think Flashdance is definitely on the runway. We have Flashdance is in development. Sorry, I meant to say Fatal Attraction.
Right.
The writer who did Dirty John and Chance and written a phenomenal script for us, so we're putting that together. But we're also doing plenty of original series. I think that the common denominator would be that everything sort of feels like an event. It feels like a tentpole show, like a noisy, big, populous show that plays to the entire United States, not just the coasts, and is really inclusive. And I think, frankly, right now people want positive. It doesn't mean it can't be. I would put Yellowstone. Yellowstone is on Paramount Network, the linear channel.
Right.
I would use Yellowstone as an example because it's like, it's dark and subversive, but it's also, it's fun. It's juicy. It's soapy, No,
people do want that. It doesn't have to be corny to be fun.
Exactly. It doesn't have to be blue sky. I think people don't want homework right now. I think they don't want to,
Yes.
It's hard enough.
I hope your marketing team is going to listen to that. That's a good one. People don't want homework right now. We may need to use that they don't want it at all. What can I sit and just
enjoy?
Yeah, it's become a problem about binging because I've looked at the clock and it's 4 a.m. with the right show, and you're like, oh, I think I should maybe get some sleep and get ready for my real day job.
That's true.
What are you binging right now? What are you like?
I feel like I'm binging dailies because I have so many shows in production. I stayed up actually till 1 o'clock last night watching Offer dailies because our Justin Chambers plays Brando and is like blowing us away. Like I literally had to like watch
that gave me chills. That is
this was such a high. You were like, oh God, you're gonna have somebody play Pacino, somebody play Brando. You're never seeing them. You're never recreating The Godfather. You're seeing them as the actor,
right?
Scenes, but still, you have to have
those are big shoes to fill.
Big shoes, and knock wood. So far, I feel pretty good. Matthew Good is a revelation. I bet a bunch of your residents knew Bob Evans, and I feel like they will definitely recognize his spirit coming through there. It's pretty amazing. Oh,
we're gonna have to figure out a way to show our residents when
we should definitely screen it for you guys. That'd be fun.
Absolutely. We would all love that. I know we don't have much time with you, but the last couple of questions that we ask everybody, we've been polling since we started doing all of this because of the pandemic and getting on Zoom, and I got the opportunity to talk to great people like you, and we're polling everyone really hard questions. I know I sent them to you, but Jen, come back on.
Hi.
There she is. Favorite film of all time?
Silence of the Lambs.
Nice. And our connection with Creative Chaos is the show that you're on, that the residents are participating in and doing all sorts of great production. Jodie Foster hosts Mafia for us every now and then.
Oh my God, can I play? I love to host Mafia too.
I also feel like maybe if we could get this cast of the docu-series that you're talking about maybe needs to play Mafia. I think that could be
so fun.
Really fun.
And anytime that
you need to play Mafia.
I love Mafia. We are total diehard Mafia fans.
And if you want to host, very happy to have you host Mafia.
Great, anytime.
Ooh, you would be a good Mafia
bossy,
host.
Remember? I like to boss people around.
Yes.
Yes, and you get to kill people. I've been killed by Jodie twice. It's the highlight of my life.
Yeah, there's obviously, there's like, you know, Wizard of Oz, but Silence of the Lambs, I saw it when I was 18 and it literally floored me. I stayed up all night. I couldn't sleep. You know, what are you about?
Is that a genre that you love?
I do love that genre, but I think I ended up grabbing the book off the shelf and then like reading it back from the back to the front. Like that night, it was maybe because like I'm the girl he would kidnap on the side of the road. And I feel like it was also that like I was 18, I wasn't a film student yet, but there was like that match shot where the truck comes, right? And it's like, you think he's at the door and they're not at the door. And it was like, all of a sudden it all just kind of came into focus. I would say runner up filmically would be The Parallax View. If you think about how that film was shot, when you really go back and look at it, it was a trifecta of Pakula's films, and it wasn't the most lauded. But when you go back and look at it visually, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's just
no one.
I was going to say I've never seen it. I'll have to put that on my list.
I haven't either.
Look at the visual language. Look at the shots. It's insane.
Okay.
Oh, Jen, by the way, is so good. Talk about homework. She likes homework. She'll watch this like tonight and have great notes and do a whole review. I can't wait. We'll have to talk about it, Jen, when we both watch it.
I do have to say Paramount Plus, RuPaul's Drag Race.
Yes.
That is very important for me. That's an anchor show for Paramount Plus.
It does really well for us.
Yeah.
Really, really well. It's great because we've got Nickelodeon all the way through MTV, you know what I mean? We've got something for everybody. Sports, news. It's good.
I mean, Paramount, I know we're talking about Plus, but Paramount overall is just so iconic. It is the industry to us. I mean, when you think about your favorites.
It's an honor. It's a total honor to work there. I didn't remember this, but at my father's wake, one of his friends who took me out to dinner that night that I came to town, and the guy said, you should quit your job, quit school and come down. He took me on a tour and he drove me past the Paramount gates, and he told me that I said to him, I stopped and I was like, oh my God, someday I want to work there. And I got this job like 5 days before my dad passed away. I just it's kind of crazy. I mean, Paramount and being on the lot and what that means, it's pretty amazing.
And it's the oldest lot in Hollywood.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason I brought up RuPaul's Drag Race, of course, is because our next really hard question, what's your favorite TV show?
Right now, I should say it's a Viacom CBS show, but I am obsessed with Succession. I literally I cannot wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
I have like a pull inside. I'm like, is it Sunday yet? Is it time? Is it happening? I'm just, that is
a good one.
Like, I love that it's an original.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was at Fox for the unveiling of the Murdoch Boys, so there's also a special sort of
delightful. You have a nice connection there, yeah.
Delightful job there.
But I also loved how you started the interview talking about you knew you were like, when I'm old enough to watch Fantasy Island, when I'm old enough to watch Mary Hart, like what of those classic TV shows, which of course for our residents are not classics, those are the ones that they worked on.
Now my kids discovering those shows on Netflix. I'm now not competing with this year's shows. I'm competing with the entire history of television for eyeballs, which is daunting. But you know, are you asking me what those shows?
What's your favorite out of those?
Gosh, I mean, look, I was watching MASH. I was watching All in the Family. I mean, all of those shows just were so groundbreaking. But I will say, Fantasy Island probably had the most impact on me. Like, if you want to know, there was something about wanting to go to Fantasy Island. When I went to work for Aaron Spelling, I was like, is Fantasy Island real? Is it a real place? It just,
So I grew up in Arcadia, where my parents still live, across the street from the Arboretum, where tons of films have been shot. And Fantasy Island, I mean, that was one of their main locations.
crazy, right? And I mean, like 30 something was one of the first appointment televisions where all of us would get together. And I was 18, but my friends were always 10 years older. So I was watching it with 28-year-olds. And it was actually one of the major reasons I wanted to get into the business, was seeing that show and how we all felt about it. And it's so funny now because I'm 50 and I look back and I'm like, wait, but I'm living their life at 50, but those characters were living at 30. Like, what happened?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Well, Nicole, thank you so much. Go ahead, Jen.
I was just going to say, I'm going to pop off, let you guys finish because we know you have a heart out, but please come back, host Mafia, bring a bunch of people. It'd be great. All right. Thank you. And Courtney, over to you.
Thank you. Nicole, truly, I hope to bring you back on this and see you on campus and see you at events, but you're such an incredible person. Thank you for your support, for being here with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's totally my honor and my pleasure, and anything I can do, I'd love to.
You are the best. All right. Well, have a wonderful rest of your day in your pink jacket.
All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.